Good afternoon and welcome to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show. I'm Tonya Esquibel here every Saturday from noon to 1 to bring education for all of your real estate needs. Super excited as always about our show because I have my beautiful co-host Kim Hollingshead with Hollingshead & Associates in with me, real estate attorney. I always say you always have a right to choose your own title company and it's so important. And that title company is Kim Hollingshead. So make sure that you're protecting one of the biggest assets with your title work. I personally have had challenges and in the past to where I had issues with my title and I've had to go to the experts like Kim to get those fixed. So I know you do a lot for our clients. Also 1031 exchanges, developments, LLCs,
yes,
pretty much everything. So anyway, just wanted to let you know how much I honor you and taking your time to be on the show because I know Saturdays are tough and getting prepared and taking our time, but we both aligned with a passion for educating our listeners. And that's why I started the show over, I think, almost 18 years ago. I don't know. But also on the show today, we have one of the best real estate agents across the state of Tennessee, probably in the nation, Melissa Hayes, the Hayes team, and Keller Williams. And you have a niche in Clarksville, but you also do an amazing job throughout Middle Tennessee. So I want our listeners to know, even though we might talk about some things in Clarksville, you have been killing it in Middle Tennessee. And the way that your team, it's so funny. I was saying we're doing a show before the show became live because we were talking about how great it is from an operational standpoint for our operations people to work with your operational people, smooth closings, and then just the way that you prepare your clients for closing and the way that you select that and your negotiations. I mean, it'll be 10 o'clock at night and she's like, you ready for a pre-qual? So I'm so excited to have you. This is your second time on our show. So I appreciate you coming in and bringing some knowledge. And yeah, we're just going to be talking about this real estate market from a lending update standpoint. I mean, interest rates are stabilizing. They've been coming down since November. But sometimes it's not as bad as a roller coaster as it was, say, last year coming into first and second quarter, but there's still volatility, but we are starting to see inflation get into line. And that is helping homeowners be able to realize that, hey, I think rates are still good. They might not be in the 2s and 3s, but it's still a great time to buy. You're seeing from our standpoint, like sellers starting to give more incentives, builders giving more incentives. So even if that home maybe is priced maybe where last year was overpriced, right? But rates were really low. But if they're just priced right this time of the year and with the incentives, you're still in a really good position. So I'd love to hear your take, love to hear your stats. I know you just got an amazing award in January. Was it February? 1st of February. So I always like my own guests to introduce themselves because I don't want to read a bio. I want them to hear your heart and your passion in the same way that we aligned when we met through the TV show that we were doing, American Dream TV.
That's right.
Yes. So take it away, Melissa. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm very honored to be here in the presence of these two ladies because they're outstanding. Tonya is an outstanding lender, easy to work with. Her team is amazing, and I mean that from my heart. And I can't ask for a better title company. I never knew that title could be this wonderful, where they actually come to my office and make it so personal. And so my buyers don't have to go to a stealth office. They come to my office, and this is how they remember their closing. And we make it fun, entertaining with gifts, and so they have a memorable closing.
That's awesome. That's
Thank
really
you.
cool.
Well, we appreciate your business very much. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So if you're tuning in, let me just kind of let you know, if you would like to get any information during the show, you can call our local team that's always standing by, 615-300-0794, 615-300-0794. Also, if you cannot tune in on Saturdays from noon to 1, we do have it on podcast on our social media reels. That is Facebook and Instagram, and then also on YouTube. And I hear that our famous business development marketing expert nationwide is looking at TikTok rolling out in the next short period of time too. So I'm totally expanding the radio show. For years we just did it live, but now that we've got some great talent to help us be able to reach more platforms to educate people. So if you do miss the show or previous shows, please go check us out on our podcast, our YouTube, and also our social media, Instagram and Facebook. All right. So what is the number one thing that you're seeing in the last 30 days, we'll start with buyers. How are you feeling buyers are? I know you're always busy, but just like in general, what are you seeing the attitude of buyers and what they're wanting in today's market and expectations?
Well, I feel like right now we're working with serious buyers. You know, they don't care about the interest rate. They know, and I educate my buyers as I work with them to this is a robust market right now. So, considering that when we were there for 2 years, where buyers had no negotiating, we had no negotiating chances. Mm-hmm. We were the dog in the
That's
fight.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now I tell my buyers, look, we can negotiate. And, in the cliche, everyone says it, but it's true. Mm-hmm. You marry the house, you date the interest rate because you have a chance now. I can get you some concessions. Before, you're going to pay higher on your home. You're going to pay your own closing cost. Yeah, you got a lower interest rate, but you can always refinance later. Right now, I can get your concessions. We don't have to go higher on the house. Mm-hmm. We can just go full price, and it's in your best interest. Now, lately, we sold 100. We did 112 units last year, and I don't like to say units because they were all my personal clients / friends. I don't want my clients to
112 family and friends.
Yeah,
home
family
ownership.
And friends. We helped get a roof over their head, and that was a blessing. So what I'm seeing now, actually my team leader told me yesterday, our team is up 25% from what we did last year already, which that's incredible. I didn't even know because everybody's complaining the market's slow. I haven't really experienced a market slowdown except for maybe in October, November. I think people were sitting on the fence. They're off the fence now. They're ready to shop. Spring's here. Interest rates are decreased a little. And the people are getting their taxes back. PCS season is coming, and that's for VA people, in case you don't know what PCS season is. And so my job is to teach my clients how to come in and negotiate. And every house is different. It's like when you go to the doctor's office, you get a prescription. Well, every home is different. And the way, if I could teach any real estate agents that's new in the business, communicate with the listing agent. See what that seller's looking for. So if you abide in some of those things, like when do they want to close? When do they want to move out? Right. Okay, so I've seen a decrease in prices, which is amazing for the buyers. I work with buyers and sellers, but we're in a negotiating market. Do you want to be a part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say we should. Now, with sellers, it's a different story. I tell them, look, we need to be competitive, fresh carpet, fresh paint, making your house stand out among the rest. Even though in Clarksville, our inventory now is 700. It was 1,000 in January.
Wow, I was going to say that's down.
We are lower in inventory, and I'm seeing some multiple offers come back. Highest and best are being announced. So buyers is sitting on the fence right now. I say you need to make a move.
Yeah.
If I'm talking about investors, I've got an agent on my team that's an investor specialist. She's she's wonderful. Her name is Jennifer. She helps my investors. And she also says we're in a great market for investments. Right now, rent is an average of $1,700 a month. Okay, and that's in Clarksville, not counting Nashville.
Right.
And so you will have renters. You will make money. It's the same thing with the buyers, regular buyers, marry the house, the investment property, and date the rate.
Yeah. I see a lot of investors that have kind of been sitting on the fence because of prices and over asking price and multiple bids, to where I do see more investors coming out. Even though rates are higher, they just know that they can negotiate and get better deals. And we got to take a break. When we come back, I really want to dive into some of your negotiating skills on just the transactions that I've seen on the front end and how you make that magic happen. And you're so confident about it. And it basically is the difference between having the right realtor represent you, aligned with the right lender and title company to be able to make that deal happen. Because if someone else would have been involved, they would have lost that home, or they would not have been able to get the closing costs. So I do want to go into, because I know everyone does say, oh, like we're all experts or we can negotiate or I'm a great negotiator, but we want to really go into several stories since we've been working together since last fall that I think is amazing. So stay tuned, listeners. You're listening to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome back to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show. Tonya Esquibel here every Saturday from noon to 1. If you're just now tuning in studio with me is Melissa Hayes with the Hayes team, Keller Williams, my co-host Kim Hollingshead with Hollingshead & Associates. And we are talking about buyers in this market, opportunities in this market. If you would like to get any information, call our local team, always standing by at 615-300-0794. Also, you can check us out on podcast, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all those social media platforms, and go check out some of our previous shows. Our passion has always been to bring education here locally to the market, specifically with Tennessee. And you can't always listen to the news. And so that's why we like to bring experts in and be able to share what we're seeing. And there are so many clients still continuing to get into great home ownership. And with that being said, we were talking about Melissa and negotiation skills, because you were talking about how the shift in the market during the first segment. And literally, when we started working together last fall, you do have a lot of veterans, which you want to get them into the home as little money as possible. A lot of times they think, well, there's no down payment, but you still got closing costs and prepaids. And you would go in and not only like in last November, rates were rising. So you would go in and you would negotiate discount points. You would negotiate all the closing costs, all the prepaids. And I was like,
the title and everything.
She just saved that veteran $25,000 and got him a really low rate because the way she negotiated that.
Amazing.
Yeah. So when you say everyone, or it's a cliche to say negotiation skills, it's truly not. And I guess my question is, how do buyers interview that in a real estate agent? Mm-hmm. Like, what would be your advice to them? Because like we said, opening up in the show, everyone says, oh, we can negotiate, but your skills are really, really strong. And that's the strongest. I've been doing families in Middle Tennessee since 1997. And to see the shift in the market so rapidly, because sellers were thinking, oh, I'm going to get over asking price. And then all of a sudden it flipped. Yeah. And now you're getting sellers to give, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 to help get these buyers into homes, but also the seller feeling comfortable that they're still netting and wanting to accept that contract and close quickly. So if I'm listening right now and I'm a buyer, how do I interview that? I know they need to call you, and that's, yes, that's not step number one. Mm-hmm. But if just in general, what's your thoughts on that of how do you find that perfect real estate agent that has got the heart and is going to look out for you and your best interests from an interview standpoint? From an interview standpoint,
I say if you feel connected, I have 3 grown children. So, and like I said, I sold 112 houses last year. So I have good people skills and I can get to know the buyer quickly. What is the buyer's needs? Do they need their closing costs paid for? Mm-hmm. So I kind of read the buyer. I also let them, to give them confidence, I can make this happen for them and help them look out for their best interests. I tell them I've been in construction for almost 40 years. I'm not looking at a house the same way an average agent's looking at a house. I build, I flip, also on the side, but I'm a full-time agent. I'm there for you. A full time. I'm not part time where you're going to, not get a response. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm going to educate you on your loan types. If you are a VA, I'm going to tell you what the VA is, because a lot of times they're confused. They think with VA, there's no closing cost involved. Right. So I have to educate them that there is going to be closing cost. And if you don't have the closing cost, let's find a home that will negotiate that with us. If we got a new construction, I can almost get all your concessions paid for, a refrigerator, maybe even a fence now, and blinds. We have flipped the switch. Yes.
Yeah, there was a time in Clarksville you were not getting a fence.
You weren't getting a refrigerator.
You weren't getting a fridge.
No.
And blinds.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Blinds.
And no. And so I just had one under contract the other day where the blinds were already installed, fences coming, and they got a refrigerator and all their closing costs paid for, enough to even do some buy down on their interest rate. So, it just depends on, every buyer is different. It's just like going to your physician. I look at the buyer and I say I analyze what they need, and then I write the prescription, and that's what we're going to look for. Okay. So I'm the doctor in real estate, I guess you'd say.
I love it. Where's your lab coat?
So I read them out, and I love my first-time home buyers. To educate them on loan types, it just blows them away because they don't know if they're not VA. So there's 4 different loan types I like to talk about, and then there's the DPA, which is your down payment assistance that most of them don't know about either.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that relieves a lot of anxiety, and I find with buyers, anxiety comes with it. So the more knowledge you know in anything that you don't know, relieves your anxiety. Is that not correct? Anything we do?
I agree. And I think a lot of realtors sort of turn of course, because they say, well, talk to my loan officer, right? That's always the first thing they say if they're presented with a question about loan programs. So, I love that you're kind of taking that first step and educating a little bit on the front end, accepting that responsibility, giving them that peace of mind so that when they do call the loan officer, they feel somewhat educated and more comfortable.
Yes.
Because there's an anxiety that goes
absolutely.
Always.
Yes.
And
And you can tell the difference between the way an agent or an on-site agent will prep that client before the call.
Yes.
And it does make it a little bit more smoother because if you just say, call the lender, they're like, there's that initial anxiety that you
scary.
mentioned, and it's kind of scary. But once you kind of help hold their hand a little bit to even get to the phone call,
Yes.
you can totally tell the difference of how much easier it is that they've been prepped just a little bit. So they feel more comfortable asking questions. And I think that's the one thing with first-time home buyers is they don't know what to ask. And so when you're like, introducing yourself, like what questions do you have? They really don't know. And so having that agent partner on your side, because you're the one really building the rapport with them. You're usually at the house with them. You're usually meeting them in person if they've got kids. And so you're already building that relationship versus I'm a stranger behind the phone number. And I'm going to be the one that's going to be digging in all their financial DNA and what's your credit and how's your bank account and what's going on with your income and are you paying child support or alimony? Do you owe anything to the IRS? So it makes it so much easier knowing that they're comfortable with that referral to be able to, I guess, ease their anxiety a little bit. They're still anxious, but I do think you do a really good job at that. And that's great. That is a difference. Like Kim, that you mentioned that she, explores that to where a lot of agents will be like, that's just, I'm not going to, call the lender or call the loan officer.
Yeah, that's not my wheelhouse.
Yes. Yes.
But I think realtors do have a bit of a responsibility to prepare their clients a little bit on the front end. And then just the sheer volume of transactions that you do every year, you're going to see a little bit of everything all year long, right?
Yes,
I do.
So there's really not much that can come up in a real estate transaction you haven't seen at least once.
Yep.
And you've had some experience, you know what to do to handle it. Many realtors close 2-3 deals per year, which is fine. And I think that's great that there's room for everybody starting out in the industry, part-time, full-time. That's one of the wonderful things about real estate is that it's a wide open door to anybody who wants to come into this field. And I love that about it. But it depends on what you want in an agent. If you're looking for someone that you can really rely on and who's going to have the answers, then that volume does help give you that experience.
Yes. And I can tell them, and I think the thing that if I could tell any agents even, always set your buyers up for the expectations while you're shopping. You don't have to say it all when you first have the initial phone call, but while you're shopping, educate your buyers so they know what to expect during the inspection period, your timelines. Ask them if they're in a long-term lease. Okay, this is very important. Most buyers don't know that their payment, their bank, their lender is going to skip a month before their first payment. They don't know this. So make sure you educate your buyers on every aspect. They're already thinking, how am I going to pay 2 payments on this house?
Or I've got a lease that's not up until June, so I can't make an offer now. I'm going to wait. But then what if it gets sold out from under you? I literally had that conversation with a client this
every
week.
day.
And he goes, oh, really? He goes, well, I will get my first month's deposit back. And so he's going to try to close in April. We'll skip May. And then his lease is up end of June. But because he has a deposit up, he's like, I can handle that.
can do that.
And this is an inventory home with one of the builders that I represent. So he's getting an unbelievable almost $30,000 to use toward to buy down an interest rate that's in the upper 4s. And so He's like,
that's amazing.
Yes. So you're exactly right that a lot of them don't understand that. Even people I think that have bought homes years ago. I know we got to take a break. Again, if you're just now tuning in, the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show. If you'd like to get some information, you can call us off the air, 615-308-9859 or 300-0794 is the number we've been talking about for years. And we'll be happy to connect you with Melissa or Kim if you have any questions. And when we come back, I want to dive in a little bit more on some questions. If that buyer says, we touched on it just a little bit, but if they're like, you know what? I think I'm just going to wait 6 more months. I want to know what Melissa's answer is to that buyer. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show here every Saturday from noon to 1, helping families around Middle Tennessee since 1997. In studio with me is my co-host, Kim Hollingshead. And then we have our special guest, Melissa Hayes with the Hayes team with Keller Williams. And we just left off with a powerful question that I feel like in this market, because I do hear this a lot from some buyers. I just think I'm going to wait 6 or 8 months. The rates just might go lower. What would be your answer to that buyer?
Well, I want to say the smarty pants thing is the rates may go higher, but that's a smarty pants. But realistically, an agent needs to know that we're always in a shift. Okay. And right now we're in a robust market. It's very robust. We're in a negotiating market. So 6 months down the road, wonder if we're back into multiple offers. You're not going to be able to negotiate. I'm already seeing multiple offers in our city, Clarksville, and definitely in Nashville. So the market's already shifting a little bit. We're already going back to multiple offers. We haven't seen multiple offers in months.
Right.
Okay, so wait 6 months. You may not get your closing costs paid for. You may not be able to negotiate as strongly as you can have your agent negotiate for you now. Mm-hmm. So it's like the thing I always say, marry the house and date the interest rate. You can always change the interest rate if it goes down. Mm-hmm. But you cannot find that house again. I mean, you can find a house, but it also depends on if you're paying rent. Do you want to keep paying someone else's mortgage, or would you like to pay for your own mortgage and start investing in your own portfolio? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's really comes because you're earning interest. You're burning your money up when you're renting. And I understand some people have to rent. But if you have that choice and you can get a pre-qual from one of our amazing lenders, you need to get your pre-qual and you need to go ahead and invest. I bought my first house when I was 22 years old. So I'm not telling you this out of not having experience. Mm-hmm. I have experience. The interest rates were 17%. Jimmy Carter was president. Now you know I'm old.
No, you're not.
And I assumed, because I don't know how, I just knew. I had a gut instinct with real estate at a very young age. I assumed a 9.5% VA loan and thought that was fantastic. Yeah. But really, the bottom line is, could I afford that payment? Is that payment realistic? And it was. So I went with a $500-something payment. I worked 3 jobs. I wanted a roof over my head that I owned. And I did not want a landlord. Now, on the flip side, if you're an investor, it's a great time to be an investor. Let's say you want a duplex. You rent out one side, you live in the other, and guess what? It pays for your investment property. Rent right now is incredible. A lot of them already have tenants. You're coming into an investment property with tenants already available. They're renting, and you will have no problem with that. It's the same thing. You will not find, right now they're going for a great price. In Clarksville, our prices have already decreased, 30-something percent.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, 30-something percent since last year. So this is a great time to buy as far as the price decrease,
And with interest rates lowering from where they were in last fall. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a couple of things that I always talk about with clients. Everyone's financial DNA is different. I always talk about that. Like you say, everyone's house needs are different. Mm-hmm. Their finances are different. The second thing is there is a cost to waiting. That home price, like you said, even though prices might be down 30% in Clarksville, you're getting incentives that was not even available. They weren't even paying home warranties this time last year, much less seller paying title insurance. Now you're getting closing costs. You're getting rate buy downs. You're getting, like you said earlier in the show, refrigerator, blinds, maybe a fence. And so even though prices, I think sometimes what I hear clients say is, well, if prices are coming down, should I wait if they come down even more? Well, are you going to miss that window of opportunity? Because I saw just this last week, I agree with you, a house under multiple bids. And I have not seen that since last June.
Nope.
And I do feel like it's coming back. I feel like inflation's getting a little bit better, which is stabilizing rates. They might come down just a little bit more. I mean, no one has that crystal ball.
That's right.
But there is a cost to waiting, I guess is what I want to say, because the longer you continue to pay rent, you're not building any appreciation. You're not building any equity. And you don't get a tax benefit. I think a lot of times clients forget about the tax benefit too. So even if your mortgage payment is a little bit more than what you're paying in rent, with your tax benefit of owning a home and writing off that interest, it might equal about the same, but then also you own it and you're appreciating. So if you're listening and you've been sitting there thinking, I should wait, I don't think you should wait. There's a cost to wait. You can call our local team, 615-300-0794, 615-300-0794, and we'd be happy to put some numbers together for you. The one thing I love about Cross Country is mortgage. I didn't even say I'm with Cross Country Mortgage. I just say Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show. But yes, I'm the lender in the group here. Is basically we have a lot of reports that run cost versus waiting, rent versus own. And so it will actually pull up the zip code that you're looking at buying in, and we'll show you in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, what that cost might look like, because appreciation is still strong in Middle Tennessee. Even though you mentioned a slowdown of 30%, it's still above where it was in 2021 compared to 2022. We just had an off 2022 because everyone was over asking price. And so you might list a house at a certain price, but then because of the multiple bids, it pushed those prices up higher. But really, if you look at the MLS price that was listed, we're probably pretty stable and back to a normal market is what I like to, when I'm looking at it, what I like to see the stats from that standpoint. But you don't really see those. You just see the 30% down without the consideration of the over asking price. But there's definitely a cost to waiting, rent versus own. And I do think that, and there was an article that I saw, over 70% of the new generation, I know we've talked about this on the show here for several months, but over 70-something%, I saw an article that want to buy now. They just don't know how to buy. And they're not wanting to wait because they're worried about interest rates. That was one of the things too. They're not so much worried about interest rates. Their unknown is down payment. Do I need to save more for a down payment?
Yep.
And what is my payment going to be? They're more payment conscious, not rate conscious. Like you were saying, date the rate. They're wanting to see, what is going to be my payment? And so I think that's a big push that we need to get out to our listeners, mom and dads out there. If you've got, your children or grandchildren that are in those generations, it's a good time to get them just to call in, because I feel like they want more data and more numbers. And that's what I love about the systems that we have at Cross Country Mortgage, is to be able to show the numbers, because numbers don't lie. I mean, conversations, opinions, but once you can put out the numbers to show them the benefit, it has helped so many clients this year make that decision instead of waiting. So if you'd like to get more information, give us a call, our local team, 615-300-0794, 615-300-0794. All right. So we've been talking a lot about buyers. Let's talk about sellers in this market.
Well, the sellers, when I go to advise a seller and we're interviewing each other. First of all, I'd like to know, what's your timeline? What are you looking? Where are you in the grocery line? So they don't know about real estate either, right? Some of them, they don't know about real estate. So how close do you want to be checking out? Let's say you don't know much about real estate. This is how Valerie, my mentor, taught me when she listed my home. And one reason why I went with her, because I knew she was a seller's guru. She knew about VA. She knew about everything. She came to my house and she asked me if I knew about real estate. I'm like, well, not really at the time. Well, I asked a seller, how close do you want to be in the checkout line? Do you want to be first in line? Because you got a lot of things planned. You're getting ready to go.
That's a good point.
You're getting ready to go. Maybe you're PCSing. You've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Or you've got another contract on another home, right? You're first. So we can price it at this price. You got second in line because you got a little time. You can let a couple of more customers in front of you. You're not in that big of a hurry. You got some things to do. we'll price it at this price. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you're third in line, you've got all day, you're not in a big hurry, you let everybody in front, we can price it at this price. But it doesn't matter what price, it does matter what price you price. But if you don't price it competitively and you are not in the best shape, so I say now we are in a competitive market even with sellers, more so. Prepare your sellers. They may be paying for concessions. And if they say to you, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not paying closing cost. Well, wait a minute. When I go help you find another home, we're going to ask for closing cost, right? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's expectations. So set them up when you're doing the interview. Don't do it later when you've already listed their home and now you say, hey, I think we need to put on there, we need to pay closing costs. Well, you never said anything like that to me. Right. No, I've already we've had this conversation, right? Do you remember? And so make sure your house is extremely clean and excellent condition. We're competing and it's priced right. Your house will sell. Average time on the market, though, is 109 days in Clarksville. I just sold one in Dixon in 7 days. And the house down the street sold in 40 days. Wow. Okay, so I had it priced right. It was in the right condition. She listened to me. My seller was on top of it. And we had multiple people showing. So I tell my sellers, if your house shows and 9 people come through your home and we don't have an offer, where it's either price or condition.
Always.
There's not any other options. I didn't create that. The statistics is true. It's not my opinion. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we need to either decrease the price or you need to up your game and help me with the condition.
When do you start to have those conversations? After it's been on the market for 30 days or?
When I'm interviewing.
Okay.
I tell them straight up, I think everything in real estate is about expectations. Mm-hmm. Even with buyers and with your sellers. When I'm interviewing and I'm across the table from them, I'm going to say, if your house does not sell, there is going to be 2 reasons. Because, sometimes sellers have higher expectations. Well, they want to price it at one price. You show them the comps where it should be priced this price, right? And remember, it's where you want to be in the grocery line.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's such a great point. I love that. The grocery line. All right. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about the grocery line as a seller, because I know we focus most of the show on buyers. And then, Kim, we're going to do some fun trivia with Melissa, I think, too.
Love it.
Yes. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show here every Saturday from noon to 1, bringing education for all of your real estate needs. I'm Tonya Esquibel with Cross Country Mortgage, helping with finances. Everyone's financial DNA is different. Kim Hollingshead, real estate attorney, Hollingshead and Associates. Melissa Hayes team, excellent real estate agent, master negotiator when it comes to this, any market, honestly, because even you won out your multiple bids and now you're helping your clients get, your buyers get so much money when it comes to a seller. And I love the fact that we talked about buyers opening up the show. We moved into sellers and, agents can represent both. I think there's sometimes some misconception if they have to pay a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, can you work with both? And so I think you did a really, really good job of how you would represent your buyers and what you would interview them for and how to set the expectations for them. And I love where we just came off the grocery line with your sellers. Like, are they first in position, second, or third? Because that helps you be able to know price and then encourage them on condition. So I like the fact, because you're 100% correct. If it doesn't sell, it's either price or the condition of the property and how you set those expectations on the front end. So again, thank you for coming in. I know this is our last segment. We could probably keep talking for hours, but our listeners, just if you wanted to know, she is a real estate expert, can serve all of Tennessee. Melissa Hayes with the Hayes team with Keller Williams. And 300-0794 is our local number off the air, 300-0794, 615-300-0794. If you've missed this show and you're just now jumping in your car and tuning in, you can catch us on our podcast, Instagram, Facebook, and also on YouTube to learn some of the great advice that she gave us when it comes to this real estate market currently. Now, when we came back from the show, when we were coming back from the show, I mentioned I was going to do a trivia for Melissa. So are you ready for your trivia question? Because you represent an array of buyers, veterans, first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, luxury clients, investors. So I have one question for you for the trivia. And Kim, I think if you want to add one, you can. But I think the main one I wanted to do was, what does DSCR stand for when it comes to the mortgage world?
I think that's like a credit thing, but I'm not really sure. I'm going to let Kim talk about that because I would like to know myself.
Are you going to put me on the spot?
I am.
Okay, so it stands for debt service coverage ratio. And it's basically an investment, a loan for investors, where they can take the rental income that they're going to earn off that property and use it to qualify for the mortgage. And in a market like Clarksville, it's a great place to use this loan program, right, Tonya?
Absolutely. Well, I feel like in any market, as far as investors, I mean, it basically goes back to there is no personal income required. So you've got investors that maybe own multiple properties. And so Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac will only do so many financed properties. So it takes you out of that loop. You don't qualify on any of your other debt. So it's kind of like a no-doc loan a long time ago. They're basically looking at the collateral. Whatever the appraiser says that rental's worth is how they're going to calculate your qualification without considering your other debt, without looking at your tax returns. So we've not had that loan in a pretty long time. I know this has been out probably the last 2 to 3 years. It's become more popular coming into this environment. Now, typically you're going to look at 20 to 25% down, depending on the investor. Cross Country does have our own DSCR programs, but we also, I think the beauty is we can go out to correspond with multiple investors throughout the United States too. So I always say it's like pulling up the MLS. Are we the best price in this market today with our own programs and product? Or is there another investor that we have made an agreement with that we can get a better interest rate? So just know that those loans are outside, Fannie, Freddie. Conventional loans, they're going to be that portfolio, no income basically provided except for what's on that rental property. And you will have to do a little bit more of a down payment, 20 to 25%. And then those rates are probably going to be 2.5% higher than what you're seeing in the normal market. But when it comes to occurring property, like you were just talking about, if we go back to Clarksville, I mean, the rental rates and stuff are really great there. So an investor could come in and buy a duplex or a triplex, even though the rate's higher. He could add that to his portfolio, continue to provide appreciation, and probably cash flow it as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent program.
And then combine that with the housing credit that all of the soldiers get up there, right?
Right.
I mean, so that's a part of their actual income that they earn every year is that they're given a credit to cover their housing.
Yes, that's why that's why Clarksville's so wonderful, and that's why a lot of military decide to invest in real estate because they know their BAH is going to cover their mortgage, and even if it's a little bit more, it's still a great investment.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say they PCS, they go out of town. A lot of my military clients will keep their home, use it for a rental, put it to their portfolio, and they can move on and go use their VA multiple times.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I think that's something a lot of veterans don't know either, that you can use your eligibility multiple times, but also you can do mutual entitlement as well. So if you just have to, there's a calculation that VA says you have to do. So some think, I have to sell this home to get my full entitlement back. But no, you can do multiple entitlement.
Yes.
You just have to see what price point that you're buying and where you're at location wise. And that is something that we've helped a lot of people. The other thing with VA, I'm helping a client right now, and his loan amount is $1.6 million. A lot of veterans don't think you can go higher than what a normal, like they have a perception of what the price range is, but this was the best loan for them. The loan to value is going to roughly be around 88-90%. There's no private mortgage insurance on it.
Wow.
The interest rates for a VA are much lower than what Jumbo is offering right now. And so veterans can use that without the limit that they think that, like it's just, my first home, or do I have to sell this to release my entitlement? So no, this client had actually talked to 3 different banks because he was doing a construction loan, and they just did not offer him the VA option on a jumbo, and thought he would have to put more money down, higher interest rates, or go into some type of portfolio loan. And so we're actually able to structure it, and he's getting cash out because he's got to furnish this beautiful home that he just built.
Oh my gracious. Well, and I love that you work with vets, and so you're able to work with them here in Nashville or in Clarksville, anywhere, right?
Right.
But
And
It's really about representing that segment.
It is, and I tell you why I love my VA. I'm not saying they're my favorite, but they're my favorite. And besides first-time home buyers, because it's a way to give back to our servicemen and women who serve our country and go out on the limb for us. So I immediately, when I find out they are veterans, I thank them for their service, which if you've ever worked with them, it's just a whole nother thing. It gives me passion for my job, because people are like, how do you not get burned out? You do so much. I said, each client's different. Yeah. But if you're, and I relocate people from Nashville to Clarksville, vice versa. And I find that when I'm in the Nashville market, a lot of times when I have a VA client, they're intimidated because they're worried about the VA appraisal, or they're just worried about the VA. And I'm like, honey, you have a guaranteed income here. You know, with FHA, they could lose their job. With the VA, they have benefits, and usually they have a guaranteed job. So why would you not want to work with my VA client? So I get very defensive with my VA, and then once I explain it to an agent who doesn't really work with VA, and they calm down. Yeah. They just don't know.
It is interesting that so many agents, and I feel like loan officers too, that are new in the business are scared of VA loans. And I guess the lady that taught me in East Texas years ago, she's like, you learn your VA first and then you learn FHA, because anybody can do conventional. And I do think there's a lot to be said with that, because a lot of agents will be like, oh, we can't accept a counter for a VA buyer. It's not going to appraise, like you just said. Or you have a loan officer that structures it and does not even understand how to read, their pay stubs or the DD-214. But they are wonderful loans. It's the best loan out there. And that's usually one of the first questions we ask as well in our interview process. Are you a veteran? Because it is one of the best loans, whether, like we said, it's $300,000 or like my client right now, that's over $1,575,000 and getting a VA loan. It's a wonderful loan program. So I think we're up for time. Oh. Yeah, we got to have Melissa back. Yeah. So if you're just now tuning in, I'm Tonya Esquibel with Cross Country Mortgage, here every Saturday from noon to 1. We had our wonderful guest in, Melissa Hayes, the Hayes team with Keller Williams. Thank you. And Kim, as always, my co-host, Hollingshead Associate, real estate attorney. Our local team is always standing by for any questions that you might have. Please call us, 615-300-0794. Also, if you missed the show today, please go to our podcast, our YouTube, our social media. We'll have some fun things out to help you know how valuable Melissa's time and education that she gave to our listeners today. So always, if you can't catch the show live, please go and check out our podcast. I hope everyone has a blessed week, and be sure and tune in next week to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show from noon to 1 every Saturday on WTN.
Great job, Melissa.
Very good.
Putting under pressure, it really wasn't even pressure.
No,
it's just something you talk about every day.
It is.
It's not even that. Yeah, it's like I get to talk like I'm talking.
Girl.
Well, hello.
Hi. We just wrapped up the show with Melissa. You look beautiful.
You do.
I'm freezing.
Are you?
So cold.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I love that outfit.
It's so cold. It is so cold.
Isn't
But you
her
do
outfit
look gorgeous.
cute? I know. It's just ridiculous.
Too cute.
I know. I'm excited for this show. You're gonna love. It's gonna be so good.